Hey family, thank you for following and trusting the path that led you here. This is Flow Space, Conscious Conversations with J&D. I'm Jerica.
And I'm Deandra. Our discussions will be led by intuition and spirit as we continue to evolve and learn about what it means to live an earthly human experience.
Okay, so my name is Alteam. I am a light language channeler. I do psychic work, I do energy work. I've been in this line of work for many years now. I don't really like, I find it difficult when I get asked, to define myself, because I try to stay outside the identity and the definition and the words, and sometimes the English language can be a little bit limiting in those aspects, but I generally work with a modality that is light language, which works on the DNA structure, on the subconscious mind. It assists in healing. I do chakra aligning and balancing. I do akashic clearing. I do workshop. I train people to become channelers as well, and to step into their own psychic gifts and intuitions, and I also hold workshops in person, but yeah, I mainly work online. So that's kind of like a little bit of what I do in a nutshell.
Yeah. And how did you begin your journey?
So I started from a very young age. I started having psychic and prophetic dreaming, and I would kind of have these dreams and then they would come true. I come from a long lineage of witches. My mom's psychic and my grandma's psychic. She's recently passed on, but she still assists me and helps me. They don't do psychic work per se, but it is something that's been in my family. So I had it a lot when I was very young. The classical things, I couldn't sleep at night because there were shadows in my room and I was speaking to people, and all the things that kind of like sometimes kids have, and I would speak up about it, but then I would, people would be like, my parents, or just, saying to me, no, you're just a child, like it's not true. So I kind of shut it away. And then I started with tarot work at around 15, 16. And I kept on doing that throughout. But I really started opening up when I started doing my Reiki, which was around 24 years old. I'm 32 now. So I went to Reiki healing for about 5 years, once a month. So very, very diligently. And then I eventually took my attunements, and I opened my own business. My light language opened and activated in also between 2018 and 2019. I had almost like a near-death experience in 2018 as well, which also contributed to kind of like switching my perception. And I guess from there I started connecting more to my guides. I moved my whole business online with the pandemic, because I had a studio, but obviously that had to close down because I couldn't really be seeing people. And then when I started with the light language in 2018, I started my YouTube channel, and there were maybe 100 light language channelers out there. Now there's tens of thousands of them. So it's kind of become quite a diffused healing modality, which I think is beautiful. It's the new technology that's coming through and assisting people. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. I then started developing, as I worked through my own issues and kind of experiences, and as an individual, I started assisting more on that level. So I was in an abusive relationship when I was pregnant a few years ago, and then I was able to get out of that. And then as I got out of that, women who'd just come out of abusive relationships would come to me for help. So I kind of used my own experience and understanding, and then built on that. And it's still what I'm doing now. I'll have astral experiences, or I'll channel messages, and things will happen to me. I'm still also, working on myself, and then I'll share it on a collective level, and then that'll help people. So that's kind of in also a little bit shortened version of my experience in the past few years, and how I started connecting with this world. I would say I had one of my first ET contacts maybe back in 2017 also, but from when I was like 9 or 10, I always knew that I actually, I would look at the stars. And I think when I was 12, I saw an interview with someone that said that they came from Pleiades, and then I knew, and I was like, okay, that's where I'm also from. So I was like a 12-year-old who was like, thinking these things. And then when my channel really opened and I started downloading information consistently, that's when kind of like all the dots connected for me, and I started connecting to my higher self through these different versions of my higher self that I have that are helping me and assisting me in my collective work right now as well.
Wow.
It's really beautiful that the firsthand experience, like you experienced, whatever circumstances or situations you did, and then that allowed you to then connect with others experiencing and help them through the situations. It's like everything in life serves purpose.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. You were going to say something?
Yeah, it was just really cool to see the outline of having when you first started your journey and not knowing, just thinking on the grander scale, a little bit similar to what Jericho was sharing, how not knowing from where we begin, where it'll end up taking us. So it's really beautiful to hear how you came to be where you are today in your work and the continuation of that journey and how it continues to evolve for the betterment of yourself, but also to help serve the collective. And which brings me to my question about your grid work. If you can elaborate a little bit as to how would you define that and what does that look like for you?
Okay, so I get sent in specific places, like earth places, like to like either events or specific like nature places or forests and whatnot. And then what I'll do is I'll channel code. So I will tap into like my crystalline body and my light body, and then I'll start downloading code. And then what I'll do, I do grid work every time I'm channeling. So if you look at how I'm moving my hands, it's kind of like the way I see it is kind of like the code of light comes through into my fingers, and then it gets anchored into the collective grid. I'll work on specific ley lines as well of the earth, but I'll generally work on kind of like the structure that I'm seeing. So you see with me, I see through the quantum realm. So with my vision, I see with my third eye, but I also see with my vision, I can tune in and out of it. So for me, I'll always be seeing kind of like the grid structure. And the way, again, how I understand it is the way that the light language comes in, it anchors in the grid, and then it raises the vibration of it on a collective level. So it's different when I'm channeling on a screen or doing the work, it's still anchoring in that way, or when I'm sent to a specific area to channel and to work. But generally what happens when I'm working in big spaces and on a lot of people, I get sent to do collective work on like a group. So they say to me, okay, go to this event, and then between like 7 and 9 p.m. then I'll open channel and I'll start working, and my whole channel kind of like becomes one big huge chakra vortex crystalline system. And what happens is I take in people's lower vibrational frequency things and traumas, and I convert them and transmute them, and I send them up into the light. So that's kind of like what it is that I do when I work on the grid, and for people.
So it's basically the grid of the earth plane in assisting raising its vibration.
Yeah.
And how does that look in terms of being able to take on that energy and transmuting it without taking it on personally and it impacting you?
Yeah, it's a lot of structure. It's a lot of discipline. I'm very structured. I'm very disciplined, have a lot of gridding in place. My personal life is very in alignment with what I do, with who I am. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't lie, I don't drink coffee. It's a lot of work to be able to maintain. I was told about 2.5 years ago when my collective was starting getting bigger, I was told by my guides to actually go to gym. And I was already going to gym, but to put on weight on my shoulders and on my chest in order to be able to withstand the power of the channel that would be coming through my heart center. Because now I was having 200-300 people on my lives. Now I need to channel for all those people. I need to be physically strong and fit. So there's a lot of there's a lot of nuance and textures that go into my work to make me able to do what I do now. I always stay in a space of compassionate non-attachment. I don't really ever attach to anything, actually, especially like the clients, with their stories. I listen to them, but I always come back with objective observations and conclusions. I don't work on my family members. I send them to someone else because it's a little bit harder to be in non-attachment when you're working with them. But to answer your question, I'm able to not take on what I do because I'm very well structured and formed and grounded within my practice, within my craft, within what it is that I do. If you look, there's a lot of channelers out there who are channeling, but they're not grounded, they're not anchored, they're up here the whole time. I'm very rooted down here. This is also why my hair is this color. It helps me stay grounded, it helps me stay rooted. So everything that I do consciously, whether it's eating an apple or speaking to you or writing something down, okay? And I try to always stay as focused and anchored in the moment as I can in order for me to be in a space where the choices that I make are always for the highest alignment.
Now, I wanted to go back to what you had said about being able with, like aside from your third eye, but your physical eyes, seeing the grid or being able to see like into that field of energy. What does that look like if you can describe it? Because I asked this for like myself and also maybe anybody listening who might see things and then either be discouraged because other people don't see it, so they can be labeled as, whatever they can be labeled as because they're seeing something that not everybody is physically seeing, but it looks so real. So like, what does it look like for you? And also, how did you work through becoming comfortable with what you were seeing, or were you always just confident and comfortable?
No, it was very dramatic for me. I started seeing through the grid. Well, we always see through the grid. We just are not aware of it. So we can always see, it's a perception switch that comes with it. Mine came without warning. So I would be driving like normally, and all of a sudden everything would collapse and reform. Buildings would start swaying. The road would start kind of like moving. It would be the same as if you would have taken some kind of psychedelic substance. That's kind of like what I was seeing. However, nature was always solid. So everything that moved was all the man-made things, if it makes sense. When I would see through the quantum realm and when I would see in the kind of like structure of nature, I would see the aura and I would see like the life force and whatnot. Please excuse me, I'll probably be clearing throughout. I was seeing the life force and whatnot, but it was static. So that's kind of like when it first started. And then I learned to kind of tune in and out. Now I just see it as a vibration, as a movement. So I see everything that's moving all the time, but I choose obviously to tune in and out of it. And sometimes when I tune and I look into the actual grid structure, the best way I can describe it, because people have asked me this many times, is have you seen the film Lucy by Luc Besson? With Scarlett Johansson. You haven't? Okay. It's quite a famous movie. There's basically this scene where she gets to access like 100% of her brain. Anyway, long story short, there's this scene where she's in a car and she starts seeing kind of like lines of information that go up and come up and down, and it looks literally like a grid. That's what it looks like. So that's, if anyone's seen that movie, that's the best visual that I can give to describe it. But it's generally, kind of like a movement. Anyone who is comfortable with seeing auras won't really have much trouble seeing through the construct. And as I said, everyone can do it. Everyone is psychic. Everyone has psychic intuition and abilities. It's just, like exercise or like being good at something. You need to practice to get better at it.
Yeah. Do you have any tips on how one can practice?
I have a lot. I actually have a masterclass just on channeling so that people can actually do it in a way that is safe, supported, and not, like there's a lot of things that come with it. I would say priority would be shielding. Remember, guys, whenever I say shielding, out of love, never out of fear. Because if you're shielding out of fear, you're then going into polarity, and actually, it's being counterproductive to where it is that you want to be. So Yeah, shielding, staying grounded, and then practice, like whether it's meditation or open eye meditation, even with a candle. There's a lot of different methods that you can do. Your psychic senses are connected to your 5 senses, so the seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, and touching. So going on to that, you can kind of understand and see where what direction you can go on. I think for clairvoyance is quite common. A lot of people see stuff in the third eye. So practicing meditation, color, and then just really also connecting and asking. A lot of the time people are like, oh, I want to do this. Why is it not happening? But are you asking? If you don't ask, you're not going to know,
Yeah, like building that relationship, having it be a two-way street. I really love that highlight, because I find that just for myself, it's a good reminder. And I feel that that's very common, usually having the direction being one way, but not having it be a reciprocal exchange. And in terms of when you first began this work, what did it look like? Because from what you were saying, that it was intense for you, and grounding in what you were experiencing so that you can then utilize it as part of your work. Was there a large amount of time spent, or a lot of trials and tribulations that came forward when kind of building up these tools to support you in maintaining an objective view and being a clear channel?
Yeah. So everything was taken away from me. All my certainties, all my attachments, everything was taken away from me. I was I was in a space where I was fortunate enough to have a family, but I was in debt, so with no money. I was pregnant, no control over my body. I was in an abusive relationship, so no control over that either, with no job. So I had to release everything, and I lost everything. And then when I started working on myself to an extent, everything started coming back, but I had no attachment to it. So I was given very intense lessons throughout my lifetime. I always say that I feel like I've lived 100 lifetimes just in this one. And the reason being is because of the choices that, and contracts that I had before coming here. And with me, it was kind of like, I wouldn't have understood if it would have been in that way. I wouldn't be as good as I am now at what I do if I didn't have the experiences that were quite traumatic and intense in my life. So I'm very grateful for every experience that I had. And, it's kind of like you can only relate to a certain extent with someone's experience and understanding. If you haven't really had it yourself, you can empathize and you can connect with it, but you can relate more if you've had it yourself. So that was kind of like some of the intense experiences that I had. I think when it comes to the grounding, I learned from a very young age that when these gifts and things were coming through, like that, I had to ground. I was fortunate enough to have like 1 or 2 friends at the time who had gone through a similar awakening process a year or 2 before me, who helped me and guided me. Because now, back in 2017, 2018, like I'm saying it like it seems like 100 years ago. It's not that long ago, but in awakening and ascension time, it's long. We've progressed a lot in the past, 4 or 5 years or so. So I guess I always knew within my heart that I was supported, and I always worked and acted out of my heart center, out of love, out of purity. And that's kind of like, in a way, what kept me going, and to an extent protected as well.
Yeah, it really highlights the power of love. And what you mentioned before, like shielding from the space of love, not fear. I think that was such an important highlight, because it's really like which energy you're opening up to and what energy is going to support you through whatever it is that you're doing. I did want to ask you, because you mentioned like not intaking caffeine, like being very intentional with what you do intake and stuff like that. And I know that some people use like psychedelics, or weed is a big one, to like open up their channels and connect further. So can you speak a little bit more on, maybe why you choose not to, or like how that can impact someone?
So it's so funny. I made a video on my YouTube channel just on plant medicine 2 months ago, and I posted a reel yesterday about weed and spirituality because so many people ask me all the time. Okay. So I've had my experience with plant medicine. I've worked with psilocybin. I've worked with Santa Maria. I have worked in those spaces. I choose not to right now because I don't need to, because I believe that if you want to tune into the vibration of anything, you can do it without having to take anything on a physical level. I do believe that plant medicine is a gift and can really help people who are very stuck within their traumas. However, when there's codependency, when there's attachment, when there is a consistent codependency and like addiction to it, then that's when it's a problem. If you need weed to be able to channel, you don't really want to be in that space. You want to be able to channel without needing the weed. If you smoke a joint and some weed, I don't know, once every 3 weeks and enjoy it and love it and it's great and you bless the plant and it's your own plant and perfect, wonderful, amazing. If you need it every day to de-stress from your work, no, that's an attachment. That's a codependency. That's limiting for you. And I was in India last year, and I did a little bit of work and studies there, and I studied with and lived in ashram with the sadhus and whatnot. And what they say, which is also what the Buddhists say, is that the root of all suffering comes from attachment, which to me is very much in alignment, because now it can also be very dangerous. Like I recently had to, face this thing where I have a lot of people that come to me who go into these spaces with these self-proclaimed shamans who have no idea what they're doing half the time. And now they're giving people these very opening psychedelics or plant medicines, whether it's ayahuasca, San Pedro, psilocybin, whatever it is. And then they're not in the vibrational frequency to be able to hold the space. And then these people walk out of it scattered, confused, with their channel open, with portals on them, with entities, attachments. Now they're hearing voices. Now they can't function normally. And a lot of these people come to me for me to fix them. It's like you go, well, not fix because no one's broken, but it's all an experience and a lesson. But it's like you go into the doctor with a cold. The doctor has, I don't know, tuberculosis, and instead of curing the cold, he's giving you tuberculosis. Now you're walking off with the cold and tuberculosis, and then you come to me, and then I need to, fix what the doctor. So I think everything with discernment. If you want to take plant medicine, find someone who you are comfortable with, who you know has done the training, initiation, who has the basis. I would also advise against big groups if you're not too sure who's in there, because there might be something in someone's field, it might hop onto yours. So ideally, maybe smaller groups would be better. Again, I don't have anything against this. Is also my opinion, my experience, and what I work with. But I would say, as a channeler in general, you want to be as clean and clear as possible. You don't really want to be putting anything in your system that isn't of the highest alignment. I mean, the reason I don't drink coffee is because I used to drink it, and then I realized that I would wake up in the morning and I would actually really want to need my coffee. And I was like, no, I teach non-attachment. I can't have attachment to coffee. So I stopped drinking it. I was sick for 3 days. For 3 days, I was getting headaches, and I wasn't drinking a lot. I was drinking maybe 1 coffee a day, but I had been drinking coffee for the past 26 years of my life. So it was a lot, So for 3 days, I had headaches and whatnot. Now it's fine. Now I don't. I don't drink it anymore, and it's not really a suffering. If you're drinking a coffee once a week, it's fine. Do you know what I mean? But if you're waking up and you can't start your day without a coffee, then you're limiting yourself, then you have an attachment. So for me, the problem is the attachment, whether it's with substances, with coffee, with going to the hairdresser, whatever it is, you need to know that you're happy without it. If that's the space you're in, then do it. If you self-assess and you're like, actually, I'm not at peace if I don't have this thing, if this gets taken away from me, I'm going to panic, then you have an attachment problem.
Yeah, I really love the self-inquiry and checking in with the self from that honest point of view. How is there an attachment present? Because I think it can be present in the most subtlest ways, but you don't recognize or realize until you bring the awareness to you.
And when sometimes life presents different circumstances, that takes things away, and then it gives that reality check to say oh, hold on, what is my relationship with whatever it is? So it's really cool the many ways that can come forward. which I feel also supports your ascension coaching, having all of these aspects of yourself in alignment in your personal life. So could you explain a little bit about your ascension coaching? What does that look like, and how did that arrive for you?
Yeah, so I just teach what I know, hey? There's no like there's no like how can I say, there's no like one answer. People come to me with different experiences. I did channel a program, so I've got a 6-week and 6-month program that I've channeled, but that's more kind of like to train light workers. So it's to train people to then go into doing their own energy work and things like that. So that's a little bit different. But with regards to my ascension coaching, I just teach people to be in a better alignment, to release attachment, to figure out a way and give them a little bit of structure, whether it's shielding, whether it's setting their boundaries. It really depends to who I have in front of me. Again, because of the level of integration that I have with my channel, I don't really like prepare things even today. Do you know what I mean? Like what comes through to me is what is meant to come through to me. And it's the same for a client, because I really work hard on keeping my channel clear. When I have someone in front of me, then, you know, I can tune in and be like, okay, like now, you know, we got to speak about this, or they ask me questions and then I reply to them. Like sometimes they don't talk at all, and all I do is talk for like an hour. Sometimes they come with a huge list of questions and then I assist them in that aspect. So I do have a bit of a structure that I give them as well, but it kind of like depends and varies. It works a lot on claiming back their own power and on understanding in what aspects and areas of their life they can, you know, release the attachments or get better or work on in order to be in a higher alignment. My goal in the end is to raise their baseline frequency so that they can really be, you know, in that space where they are co-creating their own life and experience.
How long, I know you said that you channeled a 6-week course, but how long do you feel that it might be necessary to work like with someone during this journey? Does it vary?
Yeah, it depends. So I've had clients that have been with me for 2-3 years. That's generally energy workers. So what they do, I work with a lot of energy workers and practitioners. That's like that. And a lot of people in the medical field I work with, and a lot of like CEOs and people with like, you know, big companies and responsibilities and things like that. So the general energy workers, they'll come to me every like maybe 2 months or so, just for me to clear the system, because it's a lot. I also have a friend who assists me in clearing my system every now and then, because sometimes, you know, that's how it is. We all work on each other and we all need to support each other. So when you're working on a lot of people, then you kind of, you know, want to make sure that your system is clean and clear. It really depends to where someone is in their journey. Generally, the people who do the 6-week program with me would sometimes come back. Sometimes they do the program and they go off and start their own healing business, and I never hear from them again, which is also okay. My goal is for the client to not need me. I don't want them to keep on coming back to me. If it's an energy worker, that's different, because then they, you know, they're serving a purpose. We all connect and we're working. But if it's someone who kind of like wants to find their way and they're maybe doing something else and whatnot, I don't want people to need me. They need to be able to go out, spread my medicine, assist other people, do their own healing, find their own modality, find their own way, and find their own feet, if it makes sense. So I've also got a lot of workshops that I offer. I've got a workshop where I explain on people how to anchor into abundance and start their own spiritual business, how the vibration and frequency of money works, and all of that. So I've got a lot of different aspects in area that I can branch out on. So it really depends to who I have in front and to how I relate to them.
Yeah, and now with the like energy workers, or even for yourself, how can one recognize when they need a clearing for themselves after working with a bunch of different people?
You'll feel it. If you're an energy worker, you'll feel it. You'll feel your system heavy. You'll feel a bit tired. You might feel a bit groggy. You might struggle with clarity. You'll feel it.
Okay. And in your physical body, did you ever experience or work through physical symptoms during your ascension journey and the awakening, or even like when you're channeling, any form of channeling? Do you ever experience physical symptoms?
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen my channelings, I spend half my time burping and coughing when I'm clearing. That's what I do most of the time. So the way that it works is, because my system, you know, becomes this big chakra and starts clearing and whatnot, the energy needs to be transmuted. It needs to go somewhere. So whether it's like a burp, a cough, or anything like that, When there's full moon, sometimes I do big collective clearings. I'll sometimes cry. Just like this one time, I cried for about an hour for all the abused women in the world, and I was just clearing some timeline for that. But generally, no, I won't. My physical body won't, unless it's a karmic contract. So, like, I broke like a small bone 2 years ago, and I knew that that was kind of like a karmic contract that had to come through. But apart from that, I'll clear either like through my light language or through like burping, coughing, through exercise. I will move through energy and through emotions. It doesn't get to the point where my physical body needs to clear it for me, because I'm so conscious of my channel and to what comes to me that I'll clear it myself. So I don't have the necessity to feel that pain, if it makes sense. But obviously, like, I will sometimes, when there's intense energies, like get maybe a little bit of a headache, or feel the ascension symptoms. But to the extent of me clearing physically, no, that's very controlled. Like, I am aware of how to do that, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
So do you feel that through the practices that you maintain to ensure that you're always in alignment, that you don't really require a lot of downtime to recoup yourself, as it's part of like a daily practice?
Yes and no. So I do find myself sometimes that I need to like rest on a physical level, but with me, it's nothing is textbook with what I do. So I'll have like maybe half an hour between one client and another. I'll put my head down. I can actually go in and out of sleep. So I can just tell my physical vessel, okay, now you're sleeping for 20 minutes, and I'll sleep for 20 minutes, and then I'll wake up, and then I'll go and do my client. So it's kind of like, when I feel that, I know, like, I kind of control that as well. I tend to sometimes, I need like to take maybe like 3-4 days off towards the end of the month, just to clear my mind and off from client, because like I'm functioning on maybe 7 to 8, sometimes 10 people a day. Plus I'm doing all my social media. Plus, you know, I'm doing, you know, the YouTube, the Instagram, all the different channels. It's a lot. I have help now. Like, I have someone who helps me as well, but it can get a lot. So I find that, yeah, on a physical level, I need to really keep myself very fit. I train like between 4 to 5 times a week. I've got a personal trainer, then I do yoga and I go to gym. And I have to keep my physical vessel very fit in order to be able to keep the channel clear, to be able to have that kind of energy as well. I do obviously supplement with proteins, everything natural. And I'm like vegetarian, almost vegan. It really like kind of like varies. I don't like drink milk or eat fish or meat or anything like that. So I tried, that works for me. I'm just going to give a disclaimer, like some people it works to eat meat. It's fine. I've got no judgment or anything against that. Just for me as channel and energy worker, it just works better not to eat anything that's like, you know, density in it. But yeah, I would say that, I guess, even with me, it comes and it goes. I don't really tend to be sick very often, but I will have energetic days where it's interesting. There'll be a lot of information coming through, and then I'll have a full day with 8 clients, and then I'll wake up in the morning and 5 of them cancel, because I actually need to integrate what's coming through. So now there's like maybe only 2 or 3 for the day, so I can integrate whatever is coming for me to understand or to pick up and whatnot. So it's kind of like I'm kind of taken care of, if it makes sense. That's how I feel anyway. Same goes when I get my moon cycle. Like, I don't really calculate my clients based on my moon cycle. I just, you know, I take the clients, they come in and whatnot. And every time, if I get my moon cycle like on a Monday or on a Tuesday, then I will see that day with like maybe from like, again, 7 to 8 clients, it goes down to 2 or 3. And then the next day, maybe it's down to like 4 and whatnot. So it's quite interesting how how I feel like I'm very taken care of, you know, which is probably, you know, just part of me from a higher realm that's assisting. But yeah, I hope this kind of answers your question.
Yeah, definitely.
It's such a divine orchestration, like down to that, like, you know, you could, I'm sure, take the action if needed, if you needed the rest to cancel the clients, but you don't even have to, because it's already being orchestrated for you, like for the greatest good, essentially.
Yeah. And it really brings forward that trust and knowing that you're always taken care of, instead of jumping the gun and making the decision faster than divine time is already in the process of making the decision for us, which is really cool. To bring it back, just for someone who maybe aspires or feels the calling within themselves to connect deeper within their own energy work or begin their journey, but is living like has like a regular job or isn't in a healthy relationship, whatever the scenario may be for them, any advice in how one can bring forward more alignment for themselves? I know maybe it's just easier to just like drop it all, but for someone who maybe has certain circumstances present that decision may not feel like is available.
Okay, so one thing, very simple. Anyone can do this. Speak your truth. Stay in your truth. Speak your truth. So this that we have here, our throat chakra, our truth, is the single most important thing for us to get into a high alignment. Why? If we're not speaking our truth, things are getting stuck, emotions are getting stuck. Now they're stuck in the solar plexus. Now it's giving me stomach problems. Now I have all these emotions that are coming up and I'm not dealing with them. So speaking the truth and understanding that speaking the truth is not only talking, is when your thoughts, actions, emotions, and words are all in alignment. You say something, you do it. You're doing something and you're happy to do it. If you're doing something like your job or whatever it is, and you're not happy doing it and it's going against your will, then you're not in your truth. So what do? You switch the perception. You wake up and you're like, okay, like I'm happy, I'm grateful. Gratitude is a really beautiful emotion to work with. I wake up every morning, I sit in gratitude for 5 minutes. So it doesn't matter what happens in my day, I'm going to be grateful because there's no wrongs in life. I like to see it this way. There's only lessons. If something doesn't go the way you expected, because you don't really want to have expectations anyway, then it's not a wrong, it's just a lesson. And then next time you will make a different choice within that aspect or within that area. So I think speaking the truth is very important. We get brought up, especially in Westernized society, with, this consumeristic society where, women people pleasing and, you don't want to upset this person and you don't want to say this, no, say it. If you're not saying it, you're not only doing a disservice to yourself by blocking your throat, you're taking away a lesson from them. They might need to hear that thing. They need to hear you say no to them because that's part of their lesson. If they don't hear it from you, they might hear it from someone else and it's going to be even worse. So really checking in with yourself. Is this in alignment with how I'm feeling? Am I okay to see this person? Am I okay to have this person in my space? Do I need to say no to my boss? Is this person taking advantage of me? And then standing up for yourself is really that simple. And once you start doing that, it's not going to be easy. It'll be hard, especially in the beginning. What isn't meant for you is going to start falling away. And it will seem like things are collapsing. Oh my God, I lost my job. Oh no, my life. I promise you, it's only being removed so that something better can take place. I'll give you this example. I had this client. This has happened like so many clients that I've had, but I'll just give you this one example. I had this client. She was stuck in this job she didn't like. She was making like reasonable money, but it wasn't in alignment with her. The boss wasn't a nice human and she just didn't like it. And she was scared to leave it because she's like, how am I going to pay rent? What's going to happen? Whatnot. She left the job. She was panicked for about I think a few weeks, maybe a month. And then all of a sudden, 3 opportunities came up. They were so much more in alignment with how she felt, with what she wanted to be and where she wanted to go. But she took a leap of faith. She trusted. She felt it wasn't right for her. I'm having goosebumps everywhere. She felt it wasn't right for her, so she let it go. And that's where the surrender comes in. That's where the divine trust comes in. That's where the universe is always conspiring in your favor. It's not trying to block you. It wants you to succeed. You're naturally born abundant. You're naturally born healthy. So I think it's just a big perception and mind switch that a lot of people struggle with because of societal construct and programming.
I really love your whole explanation just now and highlighting the importance of the trust and the surrender, because even though you might be in a situation and you're staying there, even though it's not your truth and it's not in alignment for you, who knows what awaits you if you give yourself that opportunity. And it can be so scary because of the different constructs in place that we feel like we have to be a part of, but it's like the universe, like you said, is always conspiring in our favor. And if we give ourselves that ability to speak our truth, live our truth, think our truth, like everything you listed, who knows what awaits us. It's so powerful. Like And it's so applicable too. So I'm really grateful for that, what you have shared.
Yes, same here. Absolutely. 100%. I mean, everything you've shared so far has been so much medicine to hear and experience. But to go a little deeper into what you were sharing, how maybe someone like is building a relationship with their higher guidance, and the difference between when something is a hidden blessing, a blessing in disguise, but it can appear on the surface as like chaotic or not in alignment. How can one differentiate when something is actually working, like something is a blessing and it's working to create something better, but even in the beginning, it looks like it's not a blessing, and staying through the course? You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I understand, but why does it matter to know? If you trust, you don't need to know. You're just trusting that what is happening is for your highest alignment. Does it make sense?
Okay. Yes, the simplicity of it. Yeah. It's really great. It always comes back to that, because my question was stemming from like when the back and forth comes to the minds as to like, oh, is it this? Is it this? Is it? But it's like, who cares? It's not
Well, check
necessary.
it with yourself. Is it in alignment with my truth? Does it feel good? Does my heart feel into it? Is it a passion? Is it something creative? Is it going to bring me joy? So that's all things and questions that you can ask yourself and say if you are going down the right direction. But again, there is no wrong or right, because if you go down a direction and it doesn't work, then it's an experience, is a lesson. And then the next time you'll go down another direction and whatnot. So I guess, yeah, does that answer?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess my question was really coming from like the example that you gave of your client who left her job that wasn't in alignment for her, but she was in a panic for a few weeks. In that space, sometimes how it can be like, oh, did I make the right decision? Those kinds of self-doubting or fear-based concepts that can come forward, but staying the course long enough to be rewarded with opportunities that are in alignment.
I think also oh, go ahead.
No, it just comes down to trust. Yeah. It just comes down to trust, and it's trusting in not knowing, which is the hardest thing.
Yeah, because that's what I was gonna elaborate on, is that I think even up to like the moment before you make the decision of surrendering and releasing, letting go, a lot of past moments can come to mind, like, oh, I've been here before, or what am I going to do to not be here again in the future? But those are really like the human mind concepts trying to find answers, where it's like if you do dive into the unknown, which is, it could be a scary place because you don't have the exact knowing that you're seeking. You will have to have that trust, like such a deep trust to lead you and take you, and then also like be patient with yourself, waiting for whatever is waiting for you to be received.
Yes.
And I think the more you trust, the more you get shown that you can trust, and then the more you kind of keep on trusting, if it makes sense. So it's a kind of like, sort of like a wheel, the circle, like you trusting, and it comes out and it's positive and it's working, and then okay, and then the next time you're like, okay, maybe I should kind of trust again, and it builds that spiritual strength and that trust within yourself and that connection within yourself and that connection with the universe, which is you, because we are all part of source consciousness and we are all connected anyway. So whatever you're doing and putting out in the world, in your spirituality, and it's stuff that you're putting back into yourself as well. So why would you want to go out and put out, negativity or things like that, when you can literally work with unconditional love, compassion, and understanding towards others, and really towards yourself.
Yeah, it reminds of instant gratification. Like if somebody's practicing manifestation, and then there might be like a waiting period, but once it actually does come to fruition and it happens, the person can get so excited, and then they're like, oh, I'm going to manifest something else. And then they'll have another, it'll happen. And then it'll start happening quicker and quicker because they're receiving that reward. But it's really like in that waiting period that you could lose like the courage, or you can get distracted or discouraged, and that is what makes those cycles, I feel like, continue, like until you really hold on to the trust.
Yeah, it's just a matter of aligning with the timeline. I think all the timelines are possible and they all exist. I mean, the timeline where us three girls are sitting in the same room talking also exists. Do you know what I mean? They all exist in different, in different space-time continuums. And as you work on yourself and you raise your vibration, you align with timelines that are better for you, or they are in a highest alignment that work out better for you. So it's the same with the manifestation. I think when people understand that they're not creating things out of thin air, they're just aligning with the timeline where that thing already exists, it makes it easier, because it's a lot about the perception. Like, people, if you don't believe in it, I mean, it can still work. Like, you can, move into a space where you've aligned with something because you don't have attachment to it. That is also one of the most important things. You can't really manifest anything if you've got attachment to it, because attachment comes from a space of lack. So if you're from a space of lack, then you're in the polarity, which is pushing away what it is that you want. So when it comes to manifestation, it can be quite tricky. The way that I understand how it works and how I, kind of teach it to people is really aligning with the 0-point neutrality, which is a vibrational frequency where, you meditate and then you get into the space where you're everything and nothing, you're neutral. And then you align with the emotion that whatever it is that you want to get gives you, so that you align with that timeline. And that's how you manifest in the quantum realm, because you can, there's, I think, what was it, like the Secret or something, there was this one thing that they said, you write it down and you can manifest in third dimensional density and reality, but it's a lot slower. If you learn to manifest in the quantum realm, you can align with a timeline where the thing is already there. And as you were saying, it's a lot quicker. And then the more you do it, the better you get at it. And then you literally start co-creating your life. And then, but that's when you need to really understand how to stay in integrity. That's when it's like, okay, like, now I'm doing this. Now I'm working with the system. Now I'm manipulating the energy and, manipulating in a good way. I don't know why that term manipulation has like a negative connotation, but it's actually just a word, and then that goes into the space of, again, you need to be really, really careful and conscious of what it is that you say you do, because when you're working at those levels, if your vibration drops, then you manifest in chaos. Like, you're manifesting positive and love and whatnot, you can manifest the chaos. So it's kind of like with responsibility as well.
Yeah. And how can someone check in to make sure that they are operating from that space of integrity?
Okay. You mean as in when they're working on people, or just in their own experience?
I would say both, like in any sort of capacity, to making sure that it's always in the highest form of integrity.
Okay, so first of all, are you doing it for the right reasons? If you're doing it for yourself and for your ego and for your own gratification, then you're not working for the highest integrity. There comes a point where you either energy worker, where you understand about kind of like, it's kind of like the merging of consciousness. So you understand and you come to a deep, heart-rooted understanding that everything is connected and that you're working for something that goes beyond your individual and selfish needs. When you are anchored into that, then you know that you're working with integrity. If you're still working through ego, if you're working for personal gains, if you're doing energy work for money, obviously there needs to be some kind of exchange because it's energy. But if you're just doing it for that and not to actually assist and help people, then you're not working in integrity. So there's a lot of things, and a lot of people, they don't realize, they don't understand, they are still, trying with their intentions and whatnot. It's actually quite a thing in the community right now that a lot of people are, doing energy work, but they're not like qualified to do it. And then as I explained earlier, it brings kind of like division, confusion, and separation. But I just think, if you understand that you see things through the heart and you go back to your heart center and you go back to the compassion, to the unconditional love, then you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, it's always cool how, it circles back to the heart and the space of love, like the energy of love.
Yeah, I love that so much. Which brings me to New Earth. Can you elaborate? Because I know you've spoken about it here and there on your Instagram. And I would love to hear your take on ascension and how it correlates with New Earth, and kind of what is New Earth and how can we ground in and welcome in New Earth into our personal lives to amplify the collective.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, from what I've channeled, we've already entered lower tiers of fourth dimension positively polarized Earth, which means that we are, going to where we're supposed to be going on a collective level. On an individual level, it's different. Everyone's experience is different. So, we're not all going to be entering some other different fifth dimensional density that is completely different from where we are now. We're still existing in the here and the now. So, it's kind of like understanding how to live your existence in that vibration, but still being anchored in the 3D. So we're moving all together. We're raising the vibration all together. The planet is doing its own thing. Mother Gaia is doing its own thing. The humans are doing it their own thing. And then they kind of like working together as well. Gaia is clearing her own karma. Gaia is also going through her own process, her own understanding, her own releasing, so I've channeled Gaia consciousness a few times, and it's kind of like, yes, we're working together, but we also all working, in different ways. Some people are choosing to leave. Some people are like, okay, like, I don't want to stay here for the ascension process. I'm leaving. They're taking exit points. There was a very big portal over the Earth in January, and I think middle of February. I think it's closed now, and a lot of people chose to leave. There were a lot of sudden deaths of people who, like, accidents or things like that. I saw it, in my circle of friends and speaking to clients and whatnot. That's the nice thing with me. Like, I speak to a lot of people every single day, so I can actually see these collective patterns and things that are happening and going on. And there's like, it's so funny, there's like weeks where like everyone's having like no hunger, no one's hungry, and everyone's eating is weird, and then there's weeks where like everyone is struggling to sleep and the astral space is mad and whatnot. So I think, in my opinion, it's like the best thing that we can do for the ascension, for the awakening, and for humanity is to hold our own vibration and be that beacon of light and lead by example. So when you are working in your own integrity, in your heart center, you're holding that vibration of unconditional love. And then even by just being yourself, you are assisting others. You don't have to be in energy work. You don't have to go out and do actual healing on people to help in the ascension, to be a part of it, and to work. Enough is just really doing your own work, working on your own traumas, wanting to be the best version of yourself, and in that way you're holding the light. Us and the people listening to this and the people who are here, we the people who are in front, so we kind of like the ones walking and paving the way for the others, who then gonna come along and whatnot. So I think it's important for everyone to understand that you don't really have to do much. Just hold the vibration of unconditional love, work on yourself, be a nice human, be in compassion, and that way you're gonna be great and walking into 5D and New Earth, and everything will align for the best.
Yeah, and it highlights the connection that we all have as being one. Like, we come from the same consciousness, we share the consciousness, and that's why the greatest gift that you give others is giving yourself, like taking care of yourself, because in that, like in you bringing yourself into alignment and in you operating from that space of unconditional love, integrity, truth, you're allowing others to reflect that back. And that's how, like, for me, my personal belief is that that's how we all together continue stepping into this new form of Earth and this higher consciousness. Yeah.
I'm just taking it in.
Yeah, sure. No, I totally agree. Exactly.
It's so great.
I was gonna ask you, because you had mentioned a little while ago about breaking a bone, that you knew it was part of a karmic. How can you recognize when something occurs that is tied to a karmic contract or some sort of karmic cycle?
Sure. Okay. That's a very good question. Thank you for asking that. Generally, whenever you're breaking something, it's karma clearing. It's been through that kind of like physical breakage and pain, it's releasing. My experience was very different to what you would have your let's say, I'll give you an example of a standard experience. you are playing volleyball, you break your fingers. In a past lifetime, you were tortured and your fingers were cut off. By breaking them, you're clearing that lifetime, you're neutralizing that karma, you're releasing it, you're letting it go, and then your fingers are fine and you carry on with your life. So that's kind of like one example of how it can work. I think some of these experiences, again, we pre-contracted to have. But we can always choose to align with different timelines. So in my case, my experience was necessary because it actually involved freeing part of someone else's soul, which was trapped and connected to mine. And through that experience of that soul, that part of the soul that was trapped there, that this person had to recollect to be able to reach the full potential within this lifetime, I had to go through that because I had contracted to be guardian to this person. So it was connected to someone else as well. It wasn't only my own experience, but this isn't really the norm. Like generally it'll be more straightforward, like, you know, you breaking your leg or, you know, or you're having, I'll give you an example. So I have, this is so interesting that this came through to me now. I actually have this friend of mine who they found out he had cancer when he was like 17. And he was in the hospital and they said to him, no, you need to do chemo or you're not going to live for the next 6 months. I can't remember I don't know if it was like leukemia or bone cancer, or anyway, it was all over his body. And when he was in the hospital, he had this experience where he was sent back in the astral space, so in his dream, in this timeline where he had come back from the war, his whole family had been murdered, and he hung himself. And he went into that experience, he cried, and he released it and whatnot. The next day, he went for his scans, and his cancer was gone. And he knew it, and he said to them, I don't need anything, I'm going to go, bye. And now he's okay. He's like in his 30s now, sort of thing. So, and this is someone that I know, like this isn't a friend of a friend or someone, you know, who made this up like through other people. This is someone that I actually know personally, like it's a friend of mine. So, yeah, we contract these experiences. They make us stronger. Again, to me, my knowledge of the experience only came to me after. I was kind of warned to an extent, but also I was supposed to go through it. If I would have been warned, then I would have made different decisions and then I wouldn't have gone through it, and then it would have had to happen in another way, which would have been more complicated and whatnot. So it was part of, you know, what I had agreed on. But there is always free will and there is always choice within that as well. But I think it's kind of like an easy way sometimes to clear karma, you know, and to clear timelines, like clearing them in the astral space, because there's no limitation of time, so you can clear them very quickly there. And then sometimes we are not doing the work, or, you know, we're not listening, we're not in that space where sitting down, listen to my body, understanding what is coming through to me and whatnot. We too busy, you know, we think we human doings, not human beings. Sometimes we need to just stop and be, not do. And then when you're doing too much and you're not taking care of yourself, then the universe is like, here, now you have to take care of yourself. Now you need to stop. Now you need to think. Now you need to listen. So they kind of happen for different reasons. Different experiences, different people, different lessons.
Yeah, I think that the story you shared with your friend, that's so amazing. Like, it's so cool how that can work. Things from that have happened in previous lifetimes show up here, and then it might be like a turmoil experience or something that we feel isn't for our greatest good, but again, it circles back to trusting, and then everything having a reason and a purpose. And it's like, that's such a miracle and such a blessing, that story.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you, let's say if somebody taps into a past life memory that's tied to some sort of like karmic cycle, how, and I'm trying to word the question properly, but like how, or what advice can you give in terms of the person like believing the story that they're receiving, and it being differentiated from a form of imagination?
Okay. So if we start to think that we are all part of source consciousness and we all come from the same thing, we all have access to everything. So we all have access to all the different and parallel timelines. So if you're saying kind of like in the astral space, then yes, you can kind of co-create your own experience, or you can have, you know, these karmic experience and clear these timelines and whatnot. Why would it matter that much to have to differentiate? If you're living an experience, then you're supposed to be living it and you're neutralizing and you're clearing it. If you're living a co-creation of your mind, which would be in your astral space, then for sure that is also serving some kind of purpose, whether it's releasing your own trauma or your own experience or something else coming up, which isn't necessarily directly connected to what you would define a past life experience, which is also in a parallel timeline, which is also all happening at the same time, because time in the quantum realm is fluid. So yeah, I don't think it would make that much of a difference. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm asking the question from the point of view of someone, but of course, like everybody's at different places in their journey and their beliefs. But it was coming from somebody who could possibly say like, oh, like you had this memory of a past life, like that's just your imagination speaking. So like trying to different or bring light to like differentiating that concept.
Okay. More practical answer. Okay. So if you've lived something, you will know, you will remember the emotion of it. You will remember the touching, the feeling. You will remember, it will be more embedded in you. You won't be detached from it. You will, like you'll know. You know, it's like when you wake up from a dream and you're like, oh my God, that was surreal. Or when you're like, I don't know, running away from your ex-boyfriend, you know, and then you wake up, you're like, oh my God, that again. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like it's a knowing, but people need to understand this is very important. The clarity of the information of your channel, of whatever it is that comes through to you, is directly proportionate to the depth to which you have met yourself. If you have confusion within you, the messages are going to be confused. If you don't know yourself, you're not going to be able to receive properly. So it comes down to knowing yourself and understanding yourself in order to know and understand the messages and what is coming through to you. So does this answer better?
Yeah, that definitely answers better. Because I was just thinking of moments in the past, like sharing past life stories with others. And they're like, oh, like that's not real. That can just be your imagination. Like you're making all of that up. So it was like, you know, how can somebody, because I don't comprehend it that way, because I like fully believe, like you were saying, like it's an inner knowing, like the feeling is there. So I've never had that comprehension from like that point of view. But I was thinking it would be beneficial, like if anybody's listening that might question it, like how they can navigate through that.
Yeah, like the relationship with yourself and entrusting what comes forward as the relationship with the self grows. So that makes a lot of sense, because it all like begins with the self.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And to compare where you are now to where you were before arriving to this aligned life, how can one kind of like how am I trying to word this question? Like, how has it impacted you, the journey to kind of have the lens that you see life through now based on the journey that you've gone through? Does that make sense? I'm not sure if it's an abstract question.
Yeah, sorry. Can you just rephrase that for me, please?
Yeah. Well, to simplify, like how has the journey from where you were before to where you are now has impacted the way you see life now, and
Okay.
based upon like how you once saw life?
Yo, everything's better now. Everything's nicer, everything's better. There's trust, you know, as we said, surrender, trust, and there's a lot less suffering because there's no more attachment to what would be something that isn't from a highest alignment. There's obviously also healthy attachments, so like, you know, mother to the child or whatever. So it's easier for some aspects. But for other aspects, as I mentioned earlier, it requires a lot of discipline. You, to an extent, this is for my line of work, you progress as much as you're willing to sacrifice. So there's a lot of things that, and this isn't for everyone, not everyone, wants to become an energy worker and channeler. You can live in a good alignment and not be that. But I would say that my life has changed in really beautiful and positive ways. It has been challenging for some aspects, but I always really trusted things to work out, I guess, from, as you were saying, that inner knowing of yourself. And to anyone who is struggling right now and is in a space where they don't know, should they go forward or not, or this or that, are they moving backwards? You're not moving backwards. If you're making decisions, and even if you're just living life day by day, you're always moving forward. Progress isn't linear, especially when it comes to like ascension and awakening. It's not like a straight line. You go up and down and left and right and backwards. And then one morning you wake up and you're like, wow, now I've made a different decision. 6 months ago, I would have acted differently and reacted differently. Now look at me, how I'm reacting. So that's what kind of like you need to measure your progress, not on a day-to-day basis, but like, where were you this time last year? And look how far you've come. And even if you're in the same place, that's also okay. I promise you there will still be something that you would have learned.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you kind of got what I was trying to ask, because it speaks to the question that I was asking from the point of view of someone who's on the journey, to kind of give them some foresight as to what's to come in the future, if maybe they are in a tough space or lack that kind of perspective in a practical way.
Yeah.
It's empowering, like what you shared. It's very empowering and motivating, because like even if you don't feel that progress is being made, like you said, it's not linear. So it can be something so small, like how you react to something that you once would have reacted in a totally different manner. And we have a few questions, a few closing questions that we like to ask all of our guests. So do you have a favorite quote or a favorite mantra?
No, not really. Would you like me to do an energy clearing?
Oh, yeah, why not?
Yeah, I felt it in my hair. My hair was like,
Yeah. Well, thank
Yes.
you so much.
I generally close off podcasts or interviews just with, it won't be long, like maybe a few minutes or so, but just with a little bit of an energy clearing. But do you want to finish asking me the closing questions first, or do you want me to just open channel for a little bit first?
I think we can flow with you. You mentioned it. It's the perfect time.
Okay, so you can close your eyes and anchor into your body. Find a comfortable breathing rhythm. With every inhale, you breathe in light. With every exhale, you release all that no longer serves you. As you relax your body, relax your system, feel into your heart center. As we call on the Archangelic Collective, Michael to the south, Uriel to the north, Raphael to the east, Gabriel to the west, we call on Archangel Metatron with his blue cloak of protection from above, and Sandalphon to seal the grid from below. Call on our higher selves, our spirit guides, anyone else who wishes to be present. For the greatest and highest good, you're welcome in this space. Remember to listen with your heart, not with your mind. Allow for the codes to come in, anchor within your system. For your highest alignment, Kara ishiro tukumara trieta quiero tukura isira takra, Nrea te kuro tria te kaya shienataka, Tien marie tukura tria sira te kie tukuna tries mare te quiero te rashira takra, Nrio tunai. Clearing, releasing. Releasing, releasing, opening, 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 opening. You might feel things releasing from the solar plexus. Kia tukumara triye shiratakra. Triatik aro trukumara triye shinatakra. Opening, 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 opening. Letting go, 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 letting go. Clean, releasing, releasing, releasing. Releasing old programming, old structures, letting go, letting go, letting go, opening, 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 opening into more light, divine rays coming in, anchoring, 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 anchoring into blueprint structure, opening, 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 attuning, 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 attuning system. Ta quiero tokora trietmara. Naraya sierra te karoa triatic ero tukumara tik ek nara tirai shirata. Tiat kiera te ora trek mara triesie orotro nyena ishirata kras. You open up the heart into space of love, compassion, compassion, rainbow rays coming in, anchoring, 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 aurora rays coming in, anchoring, 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 clean, releasing, 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 attuning, attuning the throat, releasing, releasing, clean, releasing, 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 opening, opening, letting go, 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 letting go. Nya, 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 nya. Yeah, some of you will feel overheating. Takuru ishira tikiara takarayo tukumaria tera isira takra. Treina tik aro triate shira takiero tukora isira tikara isira. Codes of love coming in, anchoring, 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 anchoring. Codes of knowledge, 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 understanding of self, more understanding of self, more understanding of universal laws and structures coming in, anchoring, 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 pushing through, pushing out, 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 out. All that no longer serves you, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, clean, releasing, 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 more light, anchoring, 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 divine rays coming in, attuning, attuning, attuning. Okay, clean peripheral, clean, releasing, 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 releasing. Nya, 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 nya. Takara isiro tukuma yechera trei yo kriatik ara isira takre nriatik aro truara ishira takra ni nare yo tiru yeshira taki daimara yesoro yeshiretik ora sirata anchoring, 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 rising, rising, rising. Rising, rising, anchoring, anchoring, anchoring. Miyato kura isira takam, nera tekara ishira takra as you anchor into the heart. Into a space of love, of compassion, Taro Shirataka towards the self, universal understanding of self, Kietoma Shirata Nishirataka, Ishirata Kriyatakara, Ndoro Yitakara, tapping into the sovereignty, into the I am presence, knowing you are protected, supported, guided, guarded, anchored, Iotukora Ishirata Kriyatakra, now and through all of space time. Nta ye ishiro tukora ishira ye tukora ye siratik ira ishirataki nara ye tukora ye shie tukunayata tai maraye ishirata krieta kri isoro isira, trusting yourself, trusting your instincts, going back to the heart, yara, to the compassion, tiara takara ishiro, to the empathy, tukora ishira, expanding into the oneness, kietu ara yetu kuma inchira sirat kira tukora ishira takra tai ichino tukumara, letting go of judgment, kira tukora is letting go of guilt, letting go of shame, taro isha, letting go of resentment, anger, fear, pain, da ichiro tukuma inchira tikara isira nda ishiro tuk. Some of you might start crying. Liskara ichiro unani mara, it's a very nice heart expansion. Ta kiet unataka tai mi onatuku yeshira takri esiro tukora yes, clear grief and emotional loss. We allow for universal unconditional love to come in and flow through our system. The crown to throat, to the heart, to the solar plexus, sacral, to the root, grounding, anchoring, anchoring, rising, 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 closing, sealing, closing, sealing, closing, sealing, anchoring, anchoring, anchoring. Ta quiero ishira te quiero motoro kuro ishira ta quiera takra. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Takoro trieta kiet mara yetak ora ishira takra. Okay. As you gently come back into your body and anchor back into your physical vessel, grounding back in the now, in the body, in the I am presence. You can choose to stay in process. Whenever you feel ready, you'll open your eyes and ground to your field.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you so much for that.
Yes. Thank you so much.
My heart is pounding. It started beating so fast, and then I got this like really sharp pain in the what side of my body is this? My left side in the back. And then I felt like something like burst and my heart just like kept going like really fast and then it started to slow down. And I just feel like I don't know. Like I don't know how to even describe.
I feel so zen. Like I have no words, no worries, no thoughts, no heaviness in my body. I started sweating, like I'm wet. My underarms are wet.
Yeah.
My heart space felt so illuminated. I actually saw like what could be like electricity kind of looking, but like in a purplish kind of color in my eye, in my mind's eye. And just such a peace, like no worry. I don't even know what I was worried about before.
Processing for a while. So even for, everyone who's listening, you'll be clearing and releasing for a while, maybe a few hours, maybe even like a day or so. But yeah, everyone integrates differently. There's no right or wrong. Some people feel physical things. Some people, a lot of people feel very like spacey after it. That's why I generally do it at the end of like interviews or things like that. So then you can just go off and stay and process a little longer and just like sit in that, but yeah, this is the power of light language. It is the new technology that's coming through, and it's really, really beautiful. And yeah, if like the listeners want to connect, I don't know if you can leave like my website or just a link to all my work. I do activate people in light language as well. I do clearings, and it's always nice to be able to kind of feel it a little bit before, so that if it is something that aligns, with your vibration, then it's a very powerful healing tool. And as you said, some people will feel like, chords releasing or things coming up or things coming out of your head. Like I started really overheating as well, because it's obviously functioning on my system as well as I'm channeling. So thank you for sharing this space with me and for having me on your podcast.
Yes,
thank you so much for taking the time. I actually do have a quick question. One is, what do you feel is the purpose behind those who are coming forward with their light language? Like, what is the purpose for us as a collective to experience this new technology? And I know from based off the experience we just had, that you have an understanding of what's being brought forward in terms of being able to translate it into like a human language like English. Is that something that you like feel inside to know what it means in a regular language?
So because of the way light language is structured, it cannot be translated verbatim to English. So when I'm speaking English, I'm speaking English. When I'm speaking light language, I'm speaking light language. So language like we know it is a man-made construct. Light language goes beyond that. So it's an expression of the soul. So it cannot really be translated word by word. You can have a feeling of what you're doing. Like for me, because I've been channeling for so long and my channel is integrated now, you see me and okay, she's doing this, she's saying that and whatnot. But most of the people who do channel light language, they will have like a feeling, a sensation. Some people sing it as well. You can express it in writing and whatnot. And it's literally the new healing technology that's assisting us to heal, to open up, to connect to ourselves, to show us parts and spaces of ourselves, and for expression, to help us to express ourselves. So everyone has their own kind of like imprinting, because everyone is their own soul, but because we are all connected, we can all resonate to it to an extent. You can resonate more with one person, less with another one, and whatnot. But I think the more we channel it, the more it comes out, the more we will learn and understand about it, and the more it will help and assist.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely make sure to have all of your information in the show notes for anyone who's listening.
Mm-hmm. And I just feel called to share, like anybody who may have been receiving like codes or hearing things or anything like that, that doesn't know exactly like what's going on or feeling comfortable with it, you know, like because it can feel very foreign the first time that you channel and actually allow yourself to release it. Like just go with it. Don't hold yourself to any standards. Don't have any judgments against yourself and just be free. Like allow yourself to be.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, when I first started, it sounded ridiculous. It was like a blabbing, weird sound. And then it expands, and trusting yourself and trusting your channel. And the more you work on yourself, and the more, again, trust yourself, then it's going to anchor in. So yeah, beautiful.
Yes.
Is there anything that you would like the listeners to know about you, or a message that you would like to share before we close?
Yeah, I think, guys, just trust yourselves, and you powerful, infinite beings of light. You can really do anything. You can be anything. Don't feed into like, oh, is this like my soul mission? Must I do this? You can do anything you want. You can become anything you want. Don't get attached to wanting to find out what direction it is that you're supposed to go, because you are a divine being, and you can really choose and co-create, you know, your future and your life, and what direction it is that you want to progress. And yeah, and just always go back to the heart. If it feels good in the heart, then it's good. If it doesn't, then walk away.
Yes. Well, Tia, thank you so much for all the medicine you've shared, the energy, the clearing, everything. Like Deandra said, we'll make sure to link all your information in the show notes so that people know where to find you and connect with you. And we send you so many blessings.
Yes. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank
you. Bye.
Bye. Ciao.
Thank you for listening. Continue flowing in your own space by simply being.
If this resonated with you and you feel called, please be sure to follow us, like, and share. Until next time, wherever you go,
give yourself space to flow.
Peace out, family.